The story of this upcoming weekend for mixed martial arts can be described with one word: rematches. And that is because on Friday, October 3rd, the PFL will feature two rematches, very big fights, mind you, between Usman Nurmagomedov and Paul Hughes, and Corey Anderson versus Dovletsdan Yagshimuradov, both for PFL titles. And the third rematch of the weekend belongs to the UFC 320 main event in Las Vegas, Nevada at the T-Mobile Arena, the home of the Ultimate Fighting Championship, where we will see Magomed Ankalaev look to improve to 2-0 against Poatan Alex Pereira, the former two-weight world champion, nearly 7 months to the day after they first met back in March at UFC 313, where Ankalaev would dethrone Pereira. In the main event of UFC Perth just a few short days ago, we saw Carlos Ulberg extend his light heavyweight win streak to 9 in a row, and he is more than likely the number one contender, depending on who you ask. If you ask me, he is that guy. And the only other win streak in this division right now that comes close to Carlos Ulberg and actually surpasses it is the light heavyweight champion Magomed Ankalaev, as he enters this fight with Pereira, the rematch, riding a 14-fight unbeaten streak, having not tasted defeat since his UFC debut. And that came way back on March 17th of 2018 with just 1 second to go in his bout against Paul Craig in a fight that he was winning up until the Hail Mary submission. And since then, it has essentially been 7 years of perfection for Ankalaev. The only blemishes is a draw to Jan Blachowicz and a no contest with Johnny Walker, and that no contest he righted the wrongs in when they ran it back and he knocked out Johnny. And the win streak includes victories over Nikita Krylov, a perennially ranked top 15 light heavyweight, Volkan Oezdemir, a former title challenger, Thiago Santos, a former title challenger, Anthony Smith, a former title challenger, the aforementioned Johnny Walker, and Alexander Rakic, and that is what would earn Magomed the second shot at gold. And this time it wasn't a draw, it was a unanimous decision win for him to become and new and take out Alex Pereira after his legendary 2024 run. But I wouldn't say that fight 7 months ago at UFC 313 was necessarily smooth sailing for the new champion Magomed, because he would find himself losing 2 rounds on 2 judges' scorecards and 1 on the third, totaling a 48-47 times 2 and a 49-46 unanimous decision victory for himself. And if we take a look at the stats from that first bout, it was pretty closely contested, as Ankalaev would land 94 significant strikes to Alex Pereira's 76, and in totality would land 127 to 97. And we would also see Magomed Ankalaev falter on all 12 of his takedown attempts and rack up 5 minutes and 42 seconds of control time throughout the 25-minute bout up against the fence. And to me, the story of that first fight is pretty simple. I believe that Alex Pereira was so concerned with the takedown attempts and offense that Magomed Ankalaev possessed that it really messed with his mind and it really altered his game plan throughout the entire bout. If anything, dare I say, Alex Pereira even overestimated the success that Magomed Ankalaev would have against him in the takedown and grappling realm, but he was not able to make the proper adjustments to switch that mind shift back to the Pereira of old. And as a result, Poatan was never really able to step on the gas, push forward against Ankalaev, and pull the trigger to kick it into another gear and present the danger that he had shown in all of his other light heavyweight bouts outside of his Jan Blachowicz fight. So this time around, I'm expecting a much more aggressive and active Alex Pereira, and he should feel confident in himself. After all, he stuffed 12 of 12 takedowns. He never found himself on his butt on the canvas due to a Magomed Ankalaev takedown, and that should give him a ton of confidence heading into a rematch with 7 months to prepare. But that's not to say that Magomed Ankalaev can't make more adjustments for himself as well, and maybe he decides to even push for the gas even more so than he did in the first one, where he was on the offensive pretty much a majority of that bout. I think if Magomed Ankalaev can't change the tide in this second fight in terms of a takedown perspective and show that success early against Pereira in the opening round even, this time Pereira won't hesitate to push forward more after building up his confidence and go in for the kill shot. And that is exactly what landed for Alex Pereira in 4 consecutive bouts while becoming the light heavyweight champion and defending it 3 times, all in 2024. We saw him become the light heavyweight champion at UFC 295 after successfully moving up to light heavyweight and beating Jan Blachowicz in his debut bout, and he took the title away from Jiri Prochazka in the second round, and then would go on to become the fighter of the year in 2024 by knocking out Jamal Hill, Jiri Prochazka a second time, and Khalil Roundtree after a near fight of the year contender. contender. And of course, we know the accolades that Alex Pereira accomplished down in the middleweight division as well, that included wins over Sean Strickland and Israel Adesanya and becoming the middleweight champion of the world. He truly has solidified himself as a UFC Hall of Famer already, even though he debuted in the organization less than 4 years ago by the time he has this championship fight on Saturday. And if he can become a 3-time champion across 2 different weight classes at UFC 320, how much more can this man truly accomplish before he decides to call it a career? Because we can't forget that he is not a spring chicken. He is 38 years old as of July, so time is no longer on his side, even at the upper weight classes, because of all of the high caliber experience he has had across kickboxing and now mixed martial arts. And I think another narrative to keep in mind, especially in terms of the aftermath discussion on Monday, is what is next for Alex Pereira. Whether he wins or loses here against Magomed, could it be a move up to heavyweight to finish off his career and chase something that no one has ever done before? 3 championships in 3 different weight classes? Again, that's a Monday conversation, but you should at least have it in your brain as we head into the weekend. So I would love to get your thoughts on this rematch down in the comments below. What do you think will be different this time around, 7 months removed from Magomed Ankalaev's successful title dethroning performance against Pereira? Will Pereira still be gun-shy and not able to truly put his foot on the gas and look for a finish against Magomed? And for Ankalaev, what do you feel that he can do differently to continue to solidify himself as the true, unquestionable best light heavyweight in the world, and this time maybe even put a stamp on it against Alex Pereira and end this rivalry for good? In the main event of UFC 320, not only is Magomed Ankalaev putting his championship on the line, but he was also putting on the line his 14-fight unbeaten streak that we talked about. And in the co-main event, much of the same can be said for Merab Dvalishvili, the current bantamweight champion of the world, who is putting up his title and his 13-fight winning streak. And the man that is getting granted the opportunity to take both of those things away from Merab is none other than the Sandman himself, Cory Sandhagen, with his second opportunity to capture UFC gold, looking to right the wrongs of his losing effort the first go-around 4 years ago. It's crazy to think that the number 3 ranked pound-for-pound fighter in the world right now, Merab Dvalishvili, started his UFC tenure 0-2 and way behind the 8 ball. But since then, he has ran through every single one of his opponents, and for a majority of them, he's made it look pretty damn easy. And not only is he on a 13-fight win streak, which is the biggest win streak all time in the bantamweight division's history, but the resume that he has started to stack up along this win streak is absolutely second to none, with victories over Marlon Moraes, a former title challenger, Jose Aldo, the former featherweight great and bantamweight title challenger, Petr Yan, former bantamweight champion, Henry Cejudo, Olympic gold medalist and former 2-weight world champion in the UFC, Sean O'Malley, obviously a former champion because that is who Merab dethroned to become the champ, and Umar Nurmagomedov at UFC 311 to kickstart 2025, and at that point, Umar was a perfect 18-0. And the cherry on top of the 13-fight win streak came back in June at UFC 316, where Merab would have his rematch with Sean O'Malley, and this time leave no stone unturned, as not only would he dominate once again, but he would finish Sean O'Malley with a submission in round 3. And at 34 years old, he is truly right in his prime, or maybe on the edge of his prime, depending on who you ask. But it's clear that he is getting better and better fight by fight, not only in terms of the names that he's stacking up along this win streak, but with the performances that he is putting on and the skill set that continues to evolve fight by fight with his striking, with his never-ending pace, and his otherworldly bantamweight grappling and wrestling. And I think it's pretty safe to say that if he can go 3-0 in 2025 with 3 title defenses and cap it off against Cory Sandhagen, a former title challenger, and someone that many people in the MMA community hold in a very high regard, he has Fighter of the Year for 2025 in a chokehold. Rarely do we get to see champions fight this often in one calendar year, let alone defend their championship this much, and that's why it's special to see back-to-back years where the Fighter of the Year could do just that. Alex Pereira last year, as we already mentioned a few minutes ago, and potentially this year in Merab Dvalishvili. But Cory Sandhagen is no easy out for Merab. He is one of the more versatile fighters in terms of a skill set perspective in all of the bantamweight division. He's long, he's rangy, he's very precise and technical on the feet, he has very good offensive grappling, and while his 63% takedown defense doesn't necessarily jump off the page to you, all in all he fends off the grappling from his opponents a majority of the time, and even when he does go down he finds a way to get back up. But can he do that here against Merab? And I talked about all the names that Merab has tallied off over the course of his win streak, and while Cory doesn't enter this fight on a 13-fight win streak, you can't deny the resume that he has built alongside himself the past few years as well. And that can even date as far back to 2019 because he beat Mario Bautista, only one of two men, by the way, that can say that. John Lineker and Rafael Assunção, again, both 6 years ago when they were much more closer to their prime than where we see them now. Marlon Moraes, the former title challenger. Frankie Edgar, the former lightweight champion and UFC legend and Hall of Famer. Song Yadong, the currently sitting number 5 ranked bantamweight in the world. Marlon Chito Vera, a former title challenger. Rob Font, a longtime ranked top 15 fighter. And most recently in May at UFC Des Moines, he took out Davison Figueiredo, the former flyweight champion turned bantamweight contender. And at 33 years of age, much like Merab, he is also in his fighting prime, so these two could not be coming together at a more perfect time. And when you consider the resumes that I just discussed for both of them, it's wild to think that they have avoided each other up until now, and it just so happens to be that gold is on the line. And Merab Dvalishvili has been on record saying that 90% of this fight will take place on the feet and that he is looking to get a knockout and make a statement against Cory Sandhagen. Now, will that actually come to fruition once the cage door closes on Saturday? We shall see. Because obviously here the best path to victory would be for Cory Sandhagen to maintain his distance on the feet and pick apart Merab en route to getting a KO TKO finish or a decision. And for Merab, well, copy and paste what he's done to all of his other opponents. Absolutely melt them with his pressure, take them down at will. When they get back up, he drags them down again, and he never gives his opponents a second to breathe. But it is worth noting that we haven't seen Cory Sandhagen really falter or die down in terms of his energy levels over the course of 25 minutes, which we've seen him do multiple times now. But in the same breath, he also hasn't fought anyone that does what Merab can do. So if Cory Sandhagen can hold up his end of the bargain in terms of his gas tank, it will fall down to his defensive grappling. Can he keep the fight on the feet? If he goes down, can he get back up? Can he keep Merab at bay, keep him at a distance, and let him force himself in and catch him on the way? I've got to say, I am much more intrigued by this championship bout when comparing it to the main event just one fight later in that rematch for the light heavyweight title, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on your excitement levels for both down in the comments as well. And to go alongside with that, give me your predictions. Will Merab make it 14 consecutive victories? Will he make it 3 successful title defenses all in 2025? Or will Cory Sandhagen finally get his hands on UFC gold, something that many fans have thought he was going to do for years at this point, and see his dreams come full circle, come to fruition, and take out the bantamweight GOAT in the process? So that is it for the UFC 320 title fight breakdowns, and again, give me all of your thoughts, your predictions, and your bets down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new, because we are on the road to reaching 1,000 subscribers, and the goal is to do that before the end of 2025, and if we continue to build this loyal community of passionate fans, I believe that we can accomplish just that. Alongside my weekly breakdowns and previews of the biggest and best fights from a storyline and X's and O's perspective, I also recap the most meaningful results in the aftermath and discuss what's next, and give my thoughts and opinions on MMA news and fight announcements. You can also join the discussion on social media at Verbal Spar MMA on X, Instagram, and TikTok, as well as like the Facebook page Verbal Sparring MMA, and you can follow on your favorite audio listening platforms such as Spotify and Apple, where every Monday and Friday podcast episodes release there. Have a great weekend, enjoy the fights, and I will see you all in the next video.